Ian Taylor.
Number 1, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I've had various meetings with ministers today to discuss the implementation of our election pledges. I will have various meetings later, in particular in relation to young people and skills. In addition, I've attended a meeting of the Labour Party's National Executive.
I warmly welcome the Prime Minister to his role of answering questions, and I'm very grateful to him for finding time in his diary to do so. At some point he might consult the House about how these sessions change. I also wish him well in dealing with the massed ranks of his own backbenchers as they lose their political virginity. Can the Prime Minister agree today to compensate pensioners for any damage done to pension funds as a result of the windfall tax and changes in advance corporation tax which he might put forward?
Well, Madam Speaker, I first of all have to say to the honourable gentleman, yes, indeed we have a busy day because this government, unlike the last government, is actually governing in the interests of the people of this country. But secondly, in relation to the windfall tax, if I may just say to him, the windfall tax will not harm pensioners at all. What did, however, harm pensioners was the implementation of the last government putting VAT on fuel. Precisely for that reason, we are proposing cutting it.
Jean Corse.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's an honour to be called during the first Prime Minister's questions to make a serious attempt to question the Prime Minister in this House. Given that at present only one crime in 50 leads to a conviction, will my right honourable friend recognise the need to have both effective measures to prevent crime as well as a criminal justice system in which the public can have confidence? Will he tell us what measures the government will take to prevent crime?
Certainly, Madam Speaker, I will. My honourable friend is absolutely right. Indeed, today the Home Secretary is announcing a series of measures that I hope will have a beneficial effect on cutting crime in this country. He is, of course, announcing, first of all, that in respect of children between the ages of 10 and 13, then we do say they are able to tell the difference between right and wrong, and the law should be changed in that respect. Secondly, we are going to halve the amount of time it takes to get persistent juvenile offenders to court. And thirdly, he has announced a review of the entire youth justice system. Now, much of the behaviour of some of the young tearaways and thugs in our communities make life hell for people. We are committed to taking action, and again, unlike the previous administration, action we will take.
Mr. John Swinney.
Will the Prime Minister indicate if the government will be arguing for a zonal lifting of the European beef ban? And if that is the case, will he outline a timescale within which we can expect this to be the case? And also, will he give a guarantee that the beef ban will be lifted in Scotland at the same time as it is lifted in Northern Ireland?
Well, the honourable member will be aware that we are in negotiation now with the European Commission, indeed with our European partners, to try and get the best possible deal on the lifting of the beef ban. And one part of that, of course, is the certified herd scheme. And it is important that we apply that, not merely in relation to Northern Ireland, where there's the traceability scheme in place at the moment, but important also that we see how we can lift the ban in other parts of the UK as well. I do have to say to the honourable members, and I say to other members in this House, we have inherited a quite appalling situation in relation to the SE. Not just the expense, but the way that these negotiations were handled, were a disgrace. It will take time to sort it out. But I think that the early indications are that we are able to get a far better deal than the previous government, and we shall do everything we possibly can in the interest not just of the farming industry, but of the good standing of Britain abroad.
Major.
Madam Speaker, in view of the apparent confusion in briefings from ministers over recent days, can the right honourable gentleman please tell the House which companies and which classes of companies are likely to be liable for the windfall tax? And can he also please explain to the House why the chairman of British Telecom apparently felt that his company would not be liable?
Well, if I can say to the right honourable gentleman, first of all, I did hear what the chairman of British Telecom said the other day, and I was delighted, of course, that he indicated he had the good judgment to vote Labour in the general election. But I have to say that the idea that somehow the chairman of British Telecom, or indeed anyone else, was in any doubt that we were going to introduce a windfall tax, I find rather hard to say. Now, the actual companies, as the right honourable gentleman knows, we said this many times, will be decided by the Chancellor in accordance with the normal precedent, which is to do any moves in relation to the budget in his budget. Now, that would be the proper way to do it. And those companies and the amount of the windfall tax will be decided by him in the normal way.
Mr. Major.
Mr. Sirian's vote. He seems to be rather regretting that already, but I will let that pass for the moment. I find it surprising that the House of Commons is to be the last to be told who will be liable to the tax in view of the private briefings that are going on. But perhaps the right honourable gentleman can confirm to the House that no one acting in his capacity or no one from the Labour Party when in opposition gave any indication clearly or in terms of a nod and a wink that British Telecom would not be included in this tax. Can the Prime Minister be categoric about that, please?
Madam Speaker, I certainly can be categorical. Everybody has known that the decisions on who is going to be liable for the windfall tax will be taken by my right honourable friend the Chancellor in the normal way. And indeed, I may say, British Telecom and everyone else. And indeed, if I may say so, it is perfectly obvious that that should be the case. It would be wholly wrong prior to the budget if my right honourable friend either were to announce the companies or the amounts of the windfall tax. And I have to say this in addition to him, in following that precedent, we are of course following precisely what the last Conservative government did in relation to the windfall tax on banks.
Mr. Major.
The House will note that the right honourable gentleman replied in the generality but did not reply specifically and provide the House with the categoric assurance that I ask him for. Perhaps he will do so in just a moment. If this tax proceeds with an extra tax on gas, water, electricity and telephones, may I return to the point made by my honourable friend, the member for Esher and Walton. If that were to give rise to an increase in the bills for many people on low incomes in this country, will the right honourable gentleman follow the precedent of the previous government and increase the social security benefits to compensate for that? And if not, will he accept that the populist tax he proposes on fat cats would in fact be a tax that hits most those that have least?
No, Madam Speaker. No, I shall resist the temptation to say that was the soundbite, since I know... Since I have a feeling I used to use a few of those myself at one time. Madam Speaker, no, that is not the case at all. In fact, there is a cap, of course, on prices. Indeed, some of the regulators have already said that they would not consider it right for the windfall tax to lead to any increase in prices. I may also say this to the right honourable gentleman. The reason for introducing the windfall tax is clear. There is no doubt at all that excess profits, vast excess profits, were made. There is no doubt of that. There is no doubt also that it is absolutely essential that we give hope and opportunity to those hundreds of thousands of young people presently without it in our society today. And I think there will be a great deal of agreement, not just amongst those that don't have opportunity, but even amongst those that are perfectly well off in our society at the moment, that if we don't tackle the problems of a growing underclass of people cut off from society's mainstream without any chance of a job, with poor educational opportunity, without the chance to do well in life, then we will end up, as the previous government did, paying more and more by way of welfare bills and having less and less for future investment.
Mr. Peter Luff.
Madam Speaker, how will the Prime Minister fund his programme for young people when the money from the windfall tax dries up? Because all the experts agree it will, and he will need extra money.
Madam Speaker, first of all, can I say to the honourable gentleman, I'm absolutely delighted that he seems to understand, as his leader did not, that money is needed to tackle this problem. And I agree with him wholeheartedly about that. Yes, the one-off, the windfall levy is a one-off, but of course, by getting young people off benefit and into work, that is precisely what saves us the money in the long term. Well, I have to say, that the honourable member and other honourable members shake their head, there is absolutely no doubt at all that there are young people in this country who are leaving school without any proper qualifications at all. If they don't get the right chances on skills and apprenticeships, they'll never make anything of their lives. And I can tell them this, I have met, in the course of this election campaign, some third-generation families where the father hasn't worked, the son hasn't worked, the son isn't going to be working either. Now, unless we try to give them some sort of chance to escape from that welfare dependency, we will be in this difficulty forever.
Lorna Fitzsimons.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. My right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, comment on the problems that our communities face, not just because of the causes of crime, but also because of the underlying aggressive and loudest behaviour in some of our communities. And what is the government going to do about this?
Well, Madam Speaker, of course, my honourable friend is absolutely right. And that is one of the reasons why the measures that we announced in the Queen's speech aren't merely measures that tackle juvenile offending, indeed other criminal offences too. They're also measures that tackle disruptive or noisy or antisocial neighbours. And I think that all of us who have talked to our constituents in this House will know the misery that is caused by small groups of people that act in an antisocial way. And this government, at long last, is going to do something about it.
Mr. David Curry.
Does the government intend to limit the amount of time British fishermen can spend at sea in order to meet cuts in European quotas, as suggested by its Fisheries Minister?
No, Madam Speaker, actually what we have tried to secure, if I may say so, and we're trying to secure it against the background, as I say, where the negotiations have not been well handled by the previous administration. We will try and secure the very best deal for our fishermen on quota hopping and on other issues so that we can put in place a long-term framework that actually guarantees their future and offers some stability.
Mr. Colin Pickthall.
Number 7, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, we are doing everything we possibly can to alleviate poverty amongst Britain's pensioners. There are many hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of Britain's pensioners who enjoy a good standard of living. There are many more who do not. And that is one reason why we are looking urgently at the help that can be given to Britain's poorest pensioners. And of course, it is one reason why we are committed to the cut in VAT on fuel.
Mr. Pickthall.
Would my right honourable friend agree that one of the problems of pensioner poverty is caused by the complexities and sometimes by the arbitrary nature of the income support cut-off points? Would he find time, unlike the previous government who refused, to look at the work done by Lancashire County Council's Welfare Rights Service, who have managed to find ingenious means of getting 15% more pensioners claiming income support, about 7,000 individuals, totalling about £4 million going into pensioners' pockets in Lancashire? And would he use his immense influence to ensure that the government's programme for ending pensioner poverty begins by getting pensioners the rights and the benefits to which they're entitled?
Well, I should say to my honourable friend that I'm very happy to congratulate the work of those that are bringing home to pensioners the entitlements that they have. I would say two other things to him as well, that of course the review of pensions that's been undertaken by the Department of Social Security will include how we help those pensioners in greatest poverty. And in addition to that, I hope that he can say to his constituents, as I would say to the country, that previous Labour governments have done well by Britain's pensioners, always, and we will do well by them again. And, well, we've done well. We have done very well, as indeed they know, and though no doubt there will be different ways of doing well for a different age, we shall continue to do our best by Britain's pensioners.
Mr. James Wallace.
Madam Speaker, if, as the Prime Minister indicated some moments ago, a lifting of the beef export ban isn't exactly imminent, is he able to indicate what kind of approximate timescale our beef producers might reasonably expect? And in the meantime, what steps is his government taking to restrict imports into the United Kingdom of beef products which don't meet the same very high standards required of our domestic producers?
Well, Madam Speaker, we obviously want to do everything we possibly can to encourage and bring about the lifting of the beef ban. And I say to the honourable gentleman, with the greatest respect, I don't think plucking out arbitrary timetables is a very good history in this matter. We remember what happened before. However, I do actually believe I do. I'm sorry to bring back bad memories, but I do have to say to them that I believe that we can make progress, and I am hopeful that progress is being made. And I think the very fact that we have a government that is arguing the case sensibly and constructively gives us a far better chance than the previous administration.
Mr. James Gray.
Will the Prime Minister find time to visit those employers in my constituency of North Wiltshire who tell me that they will lay off workers the morning after he brings in the minimum wage? And would he not agree? And would he not agree that the tragically high level of youth unemployment in the continent of Europe is not least because of the job-destroying minimum wage in Europe?
I have to say to the honourable gentleman, first of all, that the United States, for example, has a minimum wage and has a lower unemployment rate than here. And I think that, in contradistinction to the position here, that is a matter now of agreement between the Republican Party and the Democrats. It's a pity we can't get the same agreement about decency here. I say also to him, in respect of the minimum wage, that employers will, of course, be fully consulted about the level at which it's set and how it is implemented. That is very important. But I really do not believe that the Conservative way of competing on the basis of low wages and low skills is the right future for Britain. The way that we will compete in the future is by investing in our people and by employers recognising that if you treat people fairly, you get the best out of them. And if that is one change that an incoming Labour government can bring about, we will have done a service to the whole country.
Maria Fyfe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Has my right honourable friend noticed that in this first session of Prime Minister's questions, we have already got through more questions than we would have done in 2 quarter-hour sessions. It has been a more civilised and informative event than ever before, and we look forward to this in the future. And on the question of a national minimum wage, many of us take great pride in the fact that the Labour Party stuck through thick and thin to this policy and intends to implement it as early as possible.
Madam Speaker, I thank my honourable friend for those comments, and I hope that people will understand that it is a better way of organising Prime Minister's questions. Of course, it is the case that the Select Committee on Procedure that my right honourable friend is establishing will look at ways that this can be improved in the light of the experience that we have. And on the minimum wage, I would simply, again, not to repeat what I've just said now, there are some 800,000 people in this country paid £2.50 an hour or less. I think there are reasons of efficiency for introducing some basic minimum threshold of pay. But I also think there are reasons of decency and fairness too, and we shall do it.
Thank you. Time's up. I have a point of order from Mr. Peter Brook.
Madam Speaker.
That was the easy one.
Please leave quickly, please. Quietly. We have business to do. Quickly out of here. Quickly.